Right, we're in. The little robot lady said we're in. Mate, thank you for being
Uh,
part of
uh,
this journey, man.
Mate, honor to be here. Thanks very much for being here. Right, prestigious number. I feel not worthy,
Behave yourself. I was having a look back when was the last time you came on? 75.
dude. That's awesome.
That's
Good
a
for you, mate.
it's a bit of a way ago. And then, Central Manchester, like we spoke about when we were talking shit over a few pints. Only a few, if HQ's listening. Maybe one, maybe two. Um,
Several. It was all right.
Several.
I think I finished work. It was all good.
Yeah, and you just did that bloody comp with Nige, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I got roped into another one recently as well. What's happening to me?
Love
Keep
it.
getting dragged back out onto the dance floor. Absolutely beasts me every time. It's
It's
not my
coming out.
jam, mate. But,
It's coming out of retirement. You're doing a Paul Scholes coming out. The next thing
oh,
you know, you win the treble. You do all this type of stuff. Gonna go down in history, mate.
unlikely, mate. Unlikely. I definitely know where my pedigree sits in the CrossFit world, and it ain't on the competing side.
The forever medium, forever intermediate. I was like, mate, that sounds good to me, mate. Barbell's not fucking so
Mediocre.
heavy, it's gonna crush me. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah, true. It was an intermediate division as well, and we still got our asses absolutely handed to us. Funny story was the lads next to us were like 17 and 18 years old in this pairs comp, but like Rach just had this wonderful epiphany where she goes, they're as old as the first gym we opened. I was like, oh, absolutely
Oh,
demoed. Cheers. I'm like, thanks, mate.
and then they just lap you, beat
Yeah.
you
Oh,
by
yeah, oh,
like
yeah.
4 rounds.
Yeah, they dusted us in every single one, to be fair. But I think they ended up coming third overall anyway, so I wasn't that shocked.
Fucking hats off. Some of the level now, mate, is absolutely balmy.
But mate, I saw there was a lad, um, relatively new, I think. He's competing on the Saturday, which was a different division. We just popped along to say hello, show face. And I think he hang power snatched like 100 kilos like a toothpick, you know what I mean? Just as his as his go-to. I mean, I remember if you could like full snatch 60 kilos, then that was a show pony. You could drag that out and people would be like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, so how times have changed, it's kind of cool to see.
You could actually, stabilize a barbell above your head and overhead squat. People are like, that is some like Cirque du Soleil type shit. And
It
yeah,
still is, let's be honest. It still is.
100%. And you go, yeah, I think that's where people get a lot twisted, right? Let's be honest. So we get into the GPP, everyday athlete, a member, client, whatever you want to call them. I try and stay away from client. I don't like that. Mates. We're all just a bunch of mates trying to get some fitness on. And they compare, right? They're like, oh, but look at such and such cleaning. Oh, what is it? Royce Dunn, Body Critic clean 180 at the Down Under Championship. It's like, oh, but look at that.
Yeah.
It's 180. I need 120, 140, whatever it is. Say it's 70. Doesn't matter. And you're like, dude, this is all a journey, mate. I don't look at
Yeah.
Messi and be like, hey, I need to go down to the Sunday league and start like doing Rabonas around people. It's not going to happen. I got two left feet. I'm going to trip over myself. Like
You
it's its
still
own
try, mate.
thing.
You still try. And then that centre middle come through the backy and be like, don't do that again. Like, oh, yep, gotcha, boss. Yep.
Mate, I was always just sweeper. If it ever came too far back, just put your laces through it, hit it down the park, job done. If it's not near me, it can't go in the goal.
Dude, I play on like a dad's league on a Friday night, right? And I used to be able to rely on my pace, and I still can with that mob because I think I'm one of the youngest there. Like, but I've definitely gone to that whole thing. You remember when Giggsy, when he like his speed left him, and
Yeah,
he just decided, and everyone started going, "Let's just move you into the middle, so as you can just basically spray it from one side to the other." I've started to realize that's my job role now. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's any
the
young punks
feeder.
in there, they're like, "You can get up and down the wing, mate. I'm just gonna stay in the middle and switch play for you, 100%."
Yeah, just be the feeder. Here you go, pal. Here's the ball.
Hey, Declan Rice is making a good job out of it. So if he can do it, I'm going to do the same.
Mate, gets a good paycheck too.
Yeah. Yep. True story.
Better
Hmm.
than coaching fitness. But
Yeah, there is that.
it's that comparison, though, right? Like a lot of us, I mean, comparison is a thief of joy, but we all fall into it. We might know it's a bugger, it's going to come back and bite us on the ass, but even in the coaching scene, we're like, oh well, we compare with ourselves. Like, oh fuck, last week it was better. I was like, no, 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 things are changed. It's this organic game of chess where people come in and they're dragging ass, or they come in and they're bounding through the door because it's DT, which was this morning. Two
Yeah.
classes end up getting just under 30 folk through the door. You know, I was like, oh yeah, because we're power cleaning and full cleaning in the warm up and then doing DT. I was like, yeah, no wonder. You know, if it was something like Angie or fucking Murph or a 5K, 5 people in the class, you're like, okay, sweet.
Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
guys. I'm not going to tell you next time.
Yeah, to be fair though, I reckon, yeah, I get the comparison thing. I think we've all been guilty of that. I think it's a season of your life though, isn't it? You use it as a litmus test just to see if you're pushing in the right direction. But I guess I've just got old enough now that I don't really give a fuck. I've got a lot calmer with my coaching. I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to get in there and have a good time, keep people safe, give them a little thing, try to triage hard, not over teach, not over correct, just get in that thing, give them a little tidbit and make sure that they leave with a big smile on their face. And,
Yeah.
I think that's where, the growth came, I remember plenty of occasions where, trying to make your mark on the world meant you had to stand out somehow. So you'd try to do something, whether that was in the classes where you'd be like, I've got to come up with some like super Gucci warm up that's different than everybody else, or a different progression just because it's different, like you just different is better, just keep rolling along that side. And even on seminars, I remember, like, how do I make my group stand out? And ironically, don't need to, you just need to do the basics really fucking well. And that's how you make your that's how you make your mark. But there's a growth through that, I think, where you try to make yourself stand out. I don't know whether that's imposter syndrome, but yeah, it exists. I get it, and I think we all get to the point where you get out the other side and you're like, oh, actually, I'm all right with where I'm at. And I'm grateful I'm helping people. And it actually can be a lot more simple than perhaps some folk might think,
Yeah, for sure. Like the outcome is rather simple, right? Care for someone, they make progress however small it is. They get a smile on their face and they don't get hurt. Like then they're with the mates. Yeah, like
Yeah, well, it
over
depends. I
time.
might throw a med ball.
Yeah, you might threaten a certain member or two. I was like, listen, I'm going to walk around with a PVC, and there's a reason for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Judging
Everyone's
by the
got a
accent.
gobby class as well. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's got that class where everyone's just like, look, just I appreciate you loving a gob off right now, but just park it for a second so I can tell you what we're doing next. You know what I mean?
There's
And then
always
sometimes you
something.
just let them roll.
Yeah, there's always something you got to miss to stay on time with that class. Like, for fuck's sake, you're actually getting less service here. You're getting less for your money just because you lot are just giving it the big licks. And you're like, you know what? You've got a smile on your face. Let's jump in. Kick everybody under the bus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, today's session for us was the CAP programming today. So it was 7 3s overhead squat, and it had like this little cash out at the end, which was like wide grip, like snatch grip, I think bent over row, something like that. None of my classes did the snatch grip bent over row afterwards. So I was like, fucking punch that timeline right up to the money. And they're like, are we doing these things? I'm like, nah, mate.
No.
If you want to do it as homework, you crack on, but nah. We're just going to have a bit of a shit talk towards the end, and no one cared. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I haven't got my accessories in today. I'm like, shut up, nerd. Go and do it as homework.
Yeah, it's not the accessory is always a bicep curl or a bent over row or an ab thing, right? And you're like, do you need me to watch you do planks? No, you need me to talk shit and see how you're doing. Okay, cool. Like, I'm sure you can all do a plank at home. I'm sure you've all got a. I mean, this new gym is a great example, right? With a global gym next to it, like perfect example. Crack on in there, guys. You know what you're doing. You are competent enough.
Yeah,
You're an adult.
yeah, it's Taylor made. Yeah, see you later. Go and have fun next door. But yeah, man, it's yeah, yep, 100%.
What's the biggest thing you've changed your mind on over the years? Whether inside or outside of coaching, but I think we have a really unique job because we see so many folk that they teach. Well, me, I'm blonde, but they teach us so much, even just about freaking the randomness of shit, random stuff. What's the biggest thing you've changed your mind?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I wouldn't say it's anything groundbreaking. It's just lots of subtle things along the way. I think a lot of it when I was younger, I used to be super militant about, you should work towards having, being able to squat without lifters to depth, without, no knee sleeves ever, no weights belts. You should have to use all of like none of these accessory stuff. And I get that should always be a goal, but I also then, as you get older, I realize you fucking carry around a bit more junk as well. And sometimes, I might wake up and I'm like, I just want that nice little neoprene cuddle around my knees today. You know, I might not need it, but it's just like, it's a psychological boost. And so I think there used to be things where I'd be a lot more militant about stuff, and perhaps, you know, asking questions of the person in front of me a lot more than I ever used to. You know, I'd used to go there thinking that everybody was looking to me as having all the answers and having all the input. And I wouldn't necessarily then, you know, have a two-way street. It would be like, you know, well, here's my recommendation, here's what you're doing. And that bit me in the ass a few times, you know, where, you know, if you're dealing with, let's say, not necessarily always older, but female clients as well, with jumping as an example, and the incontinence issue, you know, it's an uncomfortable one as a young trainer, but you're not really educated about it. And so there was like, if there were ladies that, you know, you had double unders straight into pull-ups as a workout or something, they're like, there's a lot of stress going on right there as well. And if they didn't have pull-ups, I'd be like, well, you do jumping pull-ups today then, right? And they'd be like, I'm not jumping. And I'd take that as a bit of a, like, they're questioning my judgment, and they'd be pushing back, and I'd be like, well, fuck you, I'll push back, and I'd be trying to like stamp my authority. Whereas now I'd be like, why? You know? And then they'd be like, well, because I'm going to wee myself, mate. And I'll be like, well, that's a sound like reason why. Let's figure out some other options. But it's just those little, it's not necessarily anything groundbreaking, I'd say. I just think it's more of a, you know, two-way street in a conversation, like figuring stuff out, explain decisions why, especially when they're going to be uncomfortable ones. Like today is an example. You know, like there are some folk that just, they're not there yet with overhead squatting, like full stop, but they might not be there at load at all. You know, like I was assessing all through the warm-ups, all through the specific warm-ups. And I'm like, you know, some of you characters today, you're not looking particularly comfortable in this movement. So here's our get out of jail free card. We're going to go for the snatch grip, but we're going to do reverse lunges, you know, 3 each leg for each set. And I'm like, because it's going to keep you safer. And I let them play about with both in the warm up. Do you know what I mean? And then just kind of like help guide them. I'm like, can you see how you're more stable overhead? You're showing me all of the things that I want to see better in that lunge than you are in the overhead squat. And I would still, and it was like, it was just more of a guiding process, helping them to come to the decision rather than me just going like, this is what you're doing today, and being very, dictator. I want to say dictatorial, if that's a fucking word, but you know what I mean? Telling them what to do, trying to guide them to making the right decision. And so that's definitely something I've done stylistic wise, being less kind of prescriptive and more kind of, well, let's see what we got today and see where we go. And if somebody wants to have a go, I'm not going to be like, no, you don't get to do it today. I'm like, yeah, suck it and see. Invariably, it doesn't go too well, right? You know, they'll try an overhead squat with an empty bar. It'll bounce out the frontal plane. Their arms will go soft and they won't get depth. And you'll be like, well, see, that weren't too successful, was it? You know, like realistically, I know there's an element of risk there, but it's pretty minimal really with that light load. And it's just a little reminder, like they'll do that same movement with the same load, but they'll do it as I was kind of recommending they do, and they'll feel more confident and they'll be able to put more load on. So they'll feel more engaged with their peers as well. Because I mean, no one wants the remedial work, right? Where all their buddies are lifting load and they're at the side with a PVC pipe. It's a bit of a, you know, I get it. It's a bit of a hit to the ego. And whilst I'd like to say that all of us are, you know, very accommodating of smacks to our ego, that's very much a negotiation most days, eh? So letting them just kind of explore it in their downtime, but guide them towards, look, you can still hang with your buddies, you can still lift load, you still get the same stimulus, we just vary it a little bit, is just a good thing that I've probably morphed into over the years. But I think those are the, you know, anything's good as well. I think that would probably be my last one. I obviously think that doing something like CrossFit is going to be the peak of what you should do physical fitness wise. But realistically, it's not. I always used to think it was the intensity that was really the big piece. And I think that's the gateway to results for sure. But I think it's just doing the movements. Like if you just keep those movements in you, even absent of intensity, I still think that that's going to give you a lot of fitness for the rest of your life. So I think that's where I was mainly at, you know. It was like, you know, you need to be doing, you know, all facets of CrossFit. And I was like, well, no, I just think if you do the movements of it, you're going to be really squared away for a long time. Like if you really want to optimize it, yeah, you're going to apply the intensity piece as well, relatively, of course. But, you know, I think that's probably where I've changed my mind a little bit. Less militant on prescription and more willing to just kind of explore the world that is people, you know.
Fascinating creatures we are, mate. Sometimes you question yourself of why the fuck do I work with people? And then other days you can't help but cry. You're just like, this is just fills you with joy. You see the
Yeah, it's
look on
fun.
people's faces, or they just confiding you about something that they might have gone through a traumatic event, or the opposite, something unbelievable happened and they can't wait to tell coach, and I had Stuart McGill on the other week, right? We talked some shit together, and one of his quotes was, "The body is made up of all systems, right? It's an organism of systems." Oh, okay, cool. The biggest influencer on all those systems is movement. I just proper kicked me in the gonads. I was like, hold on a minute. So you just equated the science to what does knuckleheads do as gym junkies of talking shit, wearing snapbacks and trackies tucked in your socks to start work at bloody 5 o'clock in the morning. You're like,
Yep.
so this does have an impact. This is
Yes.
needed. This is massive,
Yep.
huge. And I think doing those movements, I would agree. We need to keep them in the mobility piece, the coordination, the balance, all that
Yeah.
type of
And it's
stuff.
yeah, and it all starts with the movement, right? Because we've had so much stuff now where, we put it was like a study done over here as well, where we did it sort of between our community, just like anybody that wanted to be involved, we punched it out to the affiliate owners and we were like, hey, you know, we want to find out, like what's the most prevalent medication that folk have come off of since joining a CrossFit gym.
Oh, wow.
You started the program on stuff and you're now at the stage further down the line, XYZ, and you're now off that stuff. What is it? Because we were very interested. Was it kind of like, I don't know, you immediately go to things like blood pressure meds or whatever it may be, all these kind of things, statins maybe, or whatever it may be now often. But actually the biggest one was antidepressant meds.
Yeah.
The biggest one. So it's, whilst we've got that wonderfulness of like the physicality piece is great, the physicality stuff, and I've 100% am a believer in this as well. The physicality breeds the mentality, doesn't it? Like you've got that, it just that ability to overcome shit a bit better because it's like you're putting yourself in it most days, like even if it's just motivating yourself to get through the damn gym, let alone a hard session, overcoming that little piece of adversity every single day is a great builder for the mind, let alone the community spirit, let alone the feelings of self-worth you get, an accomplishment and all that kind of stuff because the program works. Like all of those are kind of great things too. But it's I thought that was just an interesting aside, because we honestly thought we'd be leaning on the side of like physical ailments in
Yeah.
terms of the med people would be coming off, but it was very telling that it was actually the psychological ones, which I think is pretty cool.
It's beautiful to hear. A long time ago, I talked to a lot of gym owners and say, "Yo, probably need to do things for people's minds upstairs." And everyone says, "Stay the fuck in your lane." Okay, no problem. Just a counselor,
Well,
street kid. Like understood. Probably said it a little less eloquently back then. Well, we still do. It depends on how much sleep I got. But then that's how
yeah.
this thing birthed, and I ended up going to see him. I call a nickname him the last one. He ended up moving, changed his whole life around. But I went to go see him because I saw him. He came in for one session. I didn't see him for like 4 weeks. I thought I'd said a joke that didn't land. I was like, oh shit. Okay, we probably lost one. Fuck. I got to get better. Comes in 4 weeks later, about 4 weeks later, and apologizes for not coming in. Why you got to apologize? You've only met me for an hour. And yeah, basically confides that he was in a garage with a noose around his neck. Like shit.
Oof.
So, as we do, we talk shit. We keep on with this fitness thing. He gives it another crack, and he ends up getting a hell of a lot better. And it's me fucking, I don't know how old I was, 20 maybe, and thinking about it of like, this thing is a little bit more, and I can't keep hearing this type of stuff. So yeah, that's when we ended up getting this mic, the same one, right here, talking shit into it.
Nice, mate. Good. Yeah, well, I mean, talking's the key, ain't it? Really, like most of the opportunities to do it kind of disappear. Like the podcast medium enabled it to happen again, didn't it? Really,
Yeah.
like just going off and have given an opportunity for others to listen on in. But it's the pub for me, the sort of the pub mentality.
Yeah.
We lost that because the pub mentality, especially for like working class lads as well, is gone. Because it used to be, beast yourself on like whatever work you got to do, probably quite a shit job, but you're doing what you need to do. Then you go to the pub on the way home for a couple of pints to just sort of fucking have a whinge with the boys, set the worlds to rights, and then go back to your family. And that was your way of like being able to do exactly that, talk about it. And then over the years, they kind of all disappeared. I mean, all the local pubs up here have pretty much fucking disappeared. And it's pretty much the same in most places as well. And I think that's where the CrossFit gyms almost took that over, isn't it? Like, well, evidently sometimes with the beer, but like with fitness instead of it. But it's the same kind of like social club, I guess, for males and females, eh? Like they just get together and they'll have a chin wag and they get those little groups. I mean, I remember coaching once at Oakley's place, Forest Flow, and there's a certain session in the morning and they all go for like a breakfast together, like the entire class. It's just like a group of lasses who all get together, they all train together and they go have breakfast after that. And it's like, happens like 2-3 times a week. And that's their sort of social outlet. And that wouldn't have happened without the gym, So it's, I think that's a crucial piece that it's kind of providing a need that we don't necessarily get access to anymore, right? Modern world is very cut off.
100%. And I think that physical adversity, going back to an Aristotle quote, is adversity exposes you to you. And I think physical adversity just ends up dropping down that barrier that we all wear. It's like a filter, right? Just, no, it's not necessarily a mask, but more of a filter to the outside world of like, no, now you've dropped that to the person in the mirror. And now you're literally looking at yourself thinking, oh my God, that kicked me in the ass. And then you're kind of half forced into this social environment where everybody else has got no filter anymore because they're all tired and they've got a little bit more of a smile on their face and they've got a sense of pride in themselves and everybody else around because you got high fives and fist bumps and fucking hell, you crushed that workout and well done. Like you were the last person, but everybody was cheering on. And then, yeah, you go for breakfast, you go for coffee, you go for a beer and stuff, and you talk a little bit more personally and openly and honestly, right? And you get to know each other on a deeper level. And yeah, I love that compare. That's very British of you. Love that comparison between the pub and the CrossFit gym, mate.
Hey, I've long said that if somebody like, I'm waiting for my kids to be old enough to go to uni, and I'm going to be like, you need to do a dissertation on the uptick in mental health issues, on the downturn of the pub environment. I reckon you've got something solid right there. Do you know what I mean? That would be a great
Wow.
study to do. See if there's a correlation between the downturn of the local pub and the uptick in instances of people having mental health issues. I reckon you'll see a strong correlation there.
Definitely now people have got sedentary jobs.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're bricklaying all day or down the mines or in a bloody factory, you're goosed. There is no way you're doing
yeah,
grace. You've done your fitness,
yeah,
mate. Congratulations. You've earned your couple of pints at the end of the day.
yeah. Mate, in my period of time where between sort of leaving the regular Globo gym and fully committing to opening up a CrossFit gym, this is around about like 04, 05. I labored for a mate, and it was like, and I mean, I absolutely had like no time or energy to be
Yeah.
annoyed at anything. Like stop. Like I weren't in my head about anything. I was just fucking fatigued. And also my ability or want or desire to do anything physical other than maybe play footy at the weekend, Gonski beats, mate. Like Fran, no chance. Like, no CrossFit in my life whatsoever because I didn't need to. You're shifting stuff all the time. That was tough.
That's where fanboy strength comes from. Just that density,
Yeah,
density of the bone.
didn't rub off on me.
The it's all right. You're still doing
Density
well
of
on the
head as well
intermittent.
sometimes. Yeah.
Brother, I got three questions.
Go ahead.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Life advice. Ooh. I don't know if I ever have. Trying to think of anybody who's kind of like, most of the time it's do as you're told, and I hate doing that, and I never have.
Yeah, we know.
Uh, yeah, exactly.
But we all
Oh, I'm trying
follow.
to think. That's a
So,
good one.
you
Yeah,
know,
you might have to come back to me on that one.
sorry, we can come back to that. What's the worst?
Do as you're told.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, do you know what? I think I've always been a bit shit, and it's well, I mean, shit in one sense, in that you should always be receptive to other people's opinions and ideas, but I'm really not if I don't respect the person. So I'm very much like I'm sure plenty of people have kind of offered their sage advice through the years for good and for bad, but it always I just had this ability to filter it out and just instantly forget it if I didn't respect that person, whether it was good or whether it was bad. So I think there's been plenty of times, we're like, in CrossFit, yeah, it can be very political sometimes, especially up at the HQ level. And people are like, well, you want to be careful being friends with so and so. And I'm like, well, fuck you. Like they're good people. So I'm still going to be friends with them. Like there's elements of that happens. Yeah, you need to act in a certain way. And I'm like, nah, I'm a big believer in ask forgiveness, not permission. So
Mm.
I pretty much just keep going to, I guess that would be the best life advice I've ever received. And as egotistical as it sounds, I think I gave that to myself, which, is just a good mantra. I think like if you've got a good moral compass and you're doing things for the right reason, you can't really go wrong just by sticking to that. If it pisses people off, it's not really your problem. That's somebody else's problem to deal with. So I think, yeah, ask forgiveness, not permission is a strong one through life. I don't know of anybody who's got anywhere without doing that. They get so many
Mm.
people who want to stop you from doing what you want to do. Like, don't do that job. You'll never make it here. Like, or you shouldn't act that way, or you shouldn't do this thing. And it's like, and it's a lot of the time, in my experience, it seems to be with just that person. It's either kind of trying to hold you back because it's making them look bad for not doing the thing, or they kind of like wish they could do it or have the courage to do it, I guess. Um, Whereas I was always just like, nah, if it feels feels right, take the leap. That's what has led me to all of the best decisions in my life, right? Trust your gut and go after it, but fully commit. And then see where it gets you. You know, I'm still in that. I'll just give this CrossFit thing a year thing. I'm still there. I'll see how this CrossFit thing goes for a year. So I just think that if you're going to get into it, get all the way in.
What's that, 20 years ago? 22 years ago?
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, this is my 20th year of CrossFit now. Yeah, I mean, in February, that would have been my 15-year anniversary of working for CrossFit.
Wow.
Yeah, but not anymore.
You don't work for him anymore?
No, I resigned this week, mate. Ooh.
Wow. Look
The
at that.
future is bright, mate.
Breaking news.
Yeah, there you
Wow.
go. You got the scoop, mate. Ooh. Yeah,
Got
it's
the
just my
scoop.
time, mate.
Mate,
Yeah, just a
100%.
different company. Different company that I started work for, and I missed the dance floor, and I'm a coach, mate. So yeah, I've wrestled with it for a few years of still doing the thing and keeping my head down and trying to do the right thing. But it was actually talking about, weirdly enough, the old mental health thing. It was putting me in a dark place because there's a few characters in the team where acting up. We talked about it, and you know, my demons are the booze. If I'm honest, my old man's passed down a habit there. So I was drinking too much to try and cope with it. It was good. I wasn't liking myself. So I think the telltale sign was as soon as I fired in the resignation email, I didn't actually get an urge to have a drop again, and I'm back to just doing it like occasionally rather than
Mm.
needing it as a mechanism. So that kind of told me everything I needed, mate. And the future's a little off, but I know that I'm still going to be in the CrossFit world. I just have no idea what that looks like. You know what I mean? Just not for headquarters, I guess.
Mate, I fucking love you for saying that, and I couldn't relate to something more right now at this, past couple of months. This year's been a bit weird, as we say every bloody year. Let's be honest, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm right there with you. You fire something, you make a decision, you finally punch that ticket, and you feel a little bit lighter, and in retrospect, you look back and you're like, oh, I was holding on to something as a crutch too much. And I don't like the bloke I ended up becoming. You end up slipping into your shadow a little bit too much, and you're like, you know what? Okay, sound. It's time for a new chapter. No problem. And when it's your stop, it's your stop. Get off the bus. It doesn't mean the bus is bad, but it's your stop. Get off.
No, yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing, for me, I was comfy, I had a good
Cool.
wage, I had a good job, he had all that thing, but I was comfy and I was bored. And it was like, there was no challenge. And I mean, it's the nature of working for an American company. If you're an international member of staff, your opportunities are limited because headquarters is in the US. So,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not really, there's nowhere for you to go. And like, I'm not mad at it, but I was comfy and I was just kind of, I had my wage and I'm like, yeah. But there was something up. I wasn't being me and I was having to give up more and more of me each time, because I mean, you know what it's like 15 years of working for CrossFit, you're no longer just like me. I'm me who works for CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so everything you do is kind of associated. And I'm like, oh, and the more that might, I still think that the goals align, they want as many people doing CrossFit as possible. So do I. So, like the goals are still good, but there's yeah, a lot of the internal ones was just, I was struggling with, just the cultural shift and the corporate identity that sometimes exists there. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of really cool folk there. But I just see him getting a bit more despondent and trapped by the wage, So hopefully they'll get to a better resolution in the future. CrossFit ain't bad. It's just HQ ain't for me anymore. I love CrossFit still, but HQ ain't for me anymore.
I understand that wholeheartedly. And let's do something. Let's start on a new adventure. You know what I've always said? You'll get a random WhatsApp message from time to time. You give me coordinates and I'm fucking in. You know what it's like. I'll just rock up with a rubber dinghy and half a backpack. You're just like, what are you doing? I was like, this is it. This is all I got. I'm in. You're like, Jesus
Sounds
Christ,
great
this
to me.
fucking council estate kid, go home. But can you teach the 6 a.m. class? I was like, yeah, I'm in. No problem.
Yeah, that's me too, mate. Always has been.
Right. This has been awesome, bro. I appreciate you so much. And fingers crossed I can get up to Scotland when I'm home. If I
Yeah, you're
do,
always welcome, brother.
I'll
You know
ping you
that.
a message.
Yeah, please do, mate. Open door. Congrats and have a great Christmas, bud.
Thank you, sir. You too. Give my best to the family.
Yeah. We'll do, mate.
Much love, mate. Speak soon. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, see you, bud. Bye bye.